Hey lads, I am on my way to my first chess tournament as a 31-year-old man, about to go beat up on some little kids in the unrated section. So, let's see how this goes today. This tournament, you actually got 50 minutes for all of your moves, and you got an additional 5 seconds every move. So I've never played with so much time in my life. This essentially means that the game could have lasted a couple of hours. And I actually noticed one interesting thing. The higher rated players that were all seated at the back of the room stayed in the chess room playing their game for much longer than the lower rated players. And I realized that's because the higher rated players use their time. They really think through every single move, every single position. Here we have game one. My opponent was a little girl. Her name was an Indian name. I'm going to butcher it if I try to say it, but we'll just call her Little S because her name started with an S. She was very good. She was super composed. She shook my hand at the start. She wanted to know my name. She wrote it down in her little chess book, and she had a whole book of her tournament games that she had been recording. So she was pretty serious. I'll go through the games here in this analysis format like this. So you can sort of see what the computer says are the best moves, what are the blunders, and you can already see above me here some of the moves, so you sort of know what started. But she started the game with d4, and I think she was slightly surprised when I played f5, which is the Dutch. The Dutch, I think, is just not a very common opening, and so maybe this surprised her a little bit. Maybe she was expecting d5, and then she could go into her standard London, which is what she went for anyway. I think the Dutch does okay against the London, but the London is such a solid system. It's just good against everything. So she played her London, and we got a setup like this. I felt pretty comfortable. I was making these moves very quickly. She played her pawn up to c3, which signified to me that she was going to be playing knight b to d2, and I know that when the knight comes to d2, instead of coming to c3, then you don't want to play your knight here to e4. If they had played their knight out here, then I would have immediately played e4, and I would have swapped off this knight. Maybe I would have been able to get her to double her pawns, so her pawns would be on these red squares, or maybe she would have taken with the queen. But it is what it is. She played the London the right way. And this is the typical move in the London. And so I castled my pieces. She put her knight on d2, and I got ready to fianchetto my bishop. I was feeling pretty comfortable here, and she castled, and that signified to me that I needed to start an attack on this half of the board. I had plenty of time on my clock. This entire game, I didn't waste too much time on my clock. I think I had about 45 minutes left at the end of the whole thing, which meant I played the game in about 5 minutes of my time with 5 seconds of move. So pretty much how I play online, the 10 minutes flat. I spent about the same amount of time making my moves. Here I went for the d6 push to stop her knight jumping over to e5, and she swung her rook over. And I probably should have taken a minute here to really think about what she was going for. I knew that she was probably going to try to push e4 at some point, but I didn't really think she was going to do it so soon. Also, the fact that she went e3 and then e4, I thought I have already won a tempo on her. She could have just left the pawn here and played it all the way to e4 in one go. But when I saw this, I probably should have considered maybe putting my pawn on d5 or trying to do something to stop this. The computer recommends chucking your knight here into the middle. I didn't want to do this because I had remembered that before in one of my games against the London, I had thrown my knight here and it was a mistake, but the position was slightly set up differently. But yeah, this move and maybe swapping off a piece here could have been okay for me. They could fall into the trap of if I move my knight here and they take, then I actually win a piece because my bishop's holding the pawn. But I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have fallen for that. She probably would have just taken with the bishop, and then I could have
taken with my pawn, and I'd be doing totally fine here. They'd have to move their knight, and they can't come out this way. They can't go back. They can't go to these squares, and they can't come forwards. So wherever they go, they've lost another piece. So this would have been really good if I had just gone for this, or, maybe taken some more time to consider it. Here, the correct response is to just ignore my knight, and my knight's just in a really solid position. But yeah, we didn't do any of this. So instead, I moved my queen to e8, which is a common idea in the classical Dutch, getting your queen over to h5 and attacking. I wanted to go for an attack. I wanted to start making stuff awkward for her. But I think my attack was just a bit too premature. She pulled her bishop back, and I thought to myself that her moving the bishop twice was a mistake. It seems like it's an okay move, but there's probably better moves, like getting the queen into the game. This pawn would be pinned, and maybe she could try to go after this pawn or something. I would probably have to put my king on h8. But yeah, lots of other ideas. I don't know quite why she wanted to push this back. Maybe she saw that I could play the pawn forwards at some point, maybe get my knight here to defend this square and go for something. But here I decided, instead of moving in like I should have, I developed my other piece, and I wanted to just really hold on to the center here. So that's what I went for. And here she pushed e4. Now, if you're looking at this, what are you going to do? Are you going to take e4? If you don't, then they're going to capture here, and then you're going to take here, and then the rook's going to be really strong because it's looking at my bishop right down the middle, and this pawn is very weak. So it kind of just makes sense to take. So that's what I did. I took. She took. And here, I think I did spend a bit of time trying to think, should I trade everything off? And in retrospect, I think I should have. If I had just swapped everything off, then yeah, the rook's attacking my pawn, but I can bring my own rook up, defend my pawn, and I'm doing okay here. I haven't lost any material. I can even get my queen here and my rook here, have a triple stacker, and go for some attack. But I didn't do this. Instead, I foolishly brought my queen out to h5, the first big mistake. And here she actually missed a tactic. She could have played knight g5. Here she's hitting this pawn. This pawn is very weak. She'll also be tempoing my rook here, and she'll also be hitting this pawn over here. So I would have to try to avoid this. And so if I had just played the pawn forwards, which would have been my best move, they could have taken, and then I could have taken, and then they could have taken with the bishop or the rook, but probably the bishop. And here my position is just not so good. You can already see the eval bar, 2.5 points for them. I'm only down 1 pawn, but my position is not so strong. Anyway, she missed this little tactic of going here and going after this pawn, and instead just took my knight, which I was very happy to see. I was able to recapture and defend that pawn, and also lift my rook to a square where I could maybe start an attack. She brought her bishop to e4, challenging my bishop, so I can't move my bishop out of the way because she'll take my rook, and my only other option is to take off her bishop or block with a pawn. And I thought about this move for quite a while, and I went with the pawn block, which I really felt good about in the game. It's saying it's a big mistake here, but I really felt good about this move because she's going to have to move back, and then I can go here, 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 and I just felt like I have the pawn majority here in the center. He can't win anything here, and this bishop can always come back to c8 and look at the hook on h3 at some point. I just felt really good about this. I thought I could push this, take here, knight's defending, queen's defending, and I have 2 pawns in the middle. Maybe I could push another one and go after some pieces and just be doing pretty well. So I pushed that pawn forwards. She dropped back. I moved my bishop. Bishop took, pawn took, and then she played her bishop back again. And I was really thinking at this point, she is moving her bishop so many times. I mean, this is probably her 5th bishop move. So I felt really good. But here I just ignored this discovered attack of the knight moving, going somewhere and attacking my queen. I just ignored it, and I really shouldn't have. Here I made the foolish mistake, the blunder, to put my rook on g6. I wanted to line it up with the enemy king so that I could pin this pawn, and so now this pawn is not protecting the knight. But here she had this move. She played her knight to e5, attacking my queen with her bishop, attacking my rook with her knight, and here I have to move my queen. I can't let her take my queen. So actually, I think my best move here is to take this pawn with check, something I didn't consider. And then maybe after they retake, I could put my queen here, check, and then I could take this knight. So I might be doing a little better than I was. I didn't take enough time to really consider this, but I just moved my queen over, just get it out of the danger zone. And I saw that, yeah, she can win my rook, but then I win her knight. So that's what I went for. Now I am down 2 points of material, and she starts to cook up some evil plans here. She swings her bishop over again. I push my pawn, and here she took the pawn. I took the pawn, and it was actually right at this moment that I touched this pawn with my hand, and I was like, I don't want to move it. I don't want to take it. I was thinking it would be better for me to take with the knight. And that's the move that I really wanted to go for. But both of them are just as bad as each other. Yeah, you can sort of see what happens here. She takes a pawn with check, and she forks my bishop. So here I have to move my king. I could have taken, but then she wins my rook. So every move here is bad for me. So I didn't want her to win my rook. So I moved my king over. She takes my bishop. I move my rook over. He takes my pawn. I cannot capture this because this would be checkmate in 2 moves. Here I move my queen, and now she has a very disgusting move. She takes my knight. So I can't take the queen because she has a back ranker. So the rest of the game just sort of fizzled out, and I got absolutely smoked. And it was at this point that I just resigned the game. My first over-the-board game, and Mrs. S destroyed me. A little girl in 4th or 5th grade. I don't know exactly how old she was, but she did very, very well. If you put this into an engine to see how they played, it says she played with an 87.9% accuracy, and I played with a 76.2. So even though she was only an 800 rated player, she played with nearly a 90% accuracy in an over-the-board game. I think there was 2 things that I learned from this game. One, you got to use your time more. Every single move or tactic that I sort of thought I had, she just took some time and thought through it. She knew what I was going to go for, and then she played very safe, very smart, very logical, very composed chess. The second thing that I learned was that in over-the-board chess, where you have more time, the level is just higher. There's going to be fewer blunders, and people really think through everything. So yeah, they might not be as good in a fast time control, but they can play really well if they have a bit of time. And she had some time. She used a lot of her time. I think she had about 20 minutes left on her clock. So she used probably about 20, 25 more minutes than I did. But you can see it really paid off for her, and she got that win. I would be very impressed with this win if I came out of the tournament having played like this. This was game 1. I have a quick video here talking about how I felt after that game, and I'll just show that right now, and then we'll jump into game 2.
So the first round of the tournament is done, and I got smoked by a little Indian girl. She was an 800. She destroyed me. Had a winning position, I think. And then in the mid-game, I threw it all away. She found some nice tactics, and she just played really solid. She used a lot of her time. She really thought through everything, and I think I rushed. So I had like 45 minutes on my clock at the end of the game. So definitely something I need to work on for this second one. So we'll see how we do in this second game about to start.
So here we are with game 2. This opponent was a 500 rated player, so I was feeling extremely confident. I'll just show you sort of what happened in this one. He played King's Pawn, and yes, I did have 2 black games in a row, but nevertheless, I played my Sicilian and I went for my hyper accelerated dragon. Standard typical moves. He brought his knight out here, and I really thought to myself, my opponent is low rated. He's going for this quick attack, and this is going to be easy to stop. So I played my pawn forwards. I was feeling very, very content with this, very happy, and played my pawn up here. The queen came in, and I knew exactly what he was going for. He was trying to checkmate me on f7, just how Apex did a few weeks back, which I completely was oblivious to. But today I was completely focused. I was not going to let a little 1100 destroy me in an over-the-board game. 500, I'm sorry, he was 500. I attack his queen and his bishop, planning to just take off the bishop most likely, but I didn't. Bishop comes in, I pull back, and here I start to get a little bit of a plan. And you can see here on the analysis bar, I'm winning by about a point already, even though no pieces have come off the board. He pulls his bishop back, and I decide I'm gonna really just push for this on the queen side here. I was thinking his knight's probably going this way, which it didn't, but after he moved here, I started to get this plan. I'm going to go after this knight or this bishop because I got pawns here and I can maybe make something happen. It looks like his pieces are a bit congested. He doesn't have spaces for this knight to go to, so I got that thought in the back of my mind. Here I think I'm going to attack this bishop. Feeling very happy here, and here I play a move, and if I'm being completely honest with you, I still don't know why the engine says it's a blunder. Apparently it is. I've looked and looked, and I don't see what is so wrong with this move. The engine says my opponent can eventually win material, and I'll just show you the moves, and you tell me if you think it's a blunder. Apparently we have to play through all of this exactly like this. Oh, yeah, it was a blunder. Look at that. He goes up a point. Okay, sorry, but that is not a blunder. I think that's nuts. If you're able to spot all that, then that's nuts. But anyway, I played the queen up here because I thought to myself, I can really go after this knight. And if he foolishly plays his pawn forwards, then I can go after this bishop because the bishop will not have any squares left to go to, and that is what he did. And so now I see this bishop is completely trapped. All I have to do is play this pawn up. Owen, you idiot. Just castle before you do something so stupid. But no, I didn't castle. I forgot that pawn up, take, and I'm actually in check. So here all I really need to do is just bring the queen back to d8, hold on to this pawn, and just hold on to my time just a little bit, get ready to castle, and then I can play forwards because this bishop is completely stuck. This pawn can't move out of the way. This pawn can't move out of the way. He can't grab this pawn, and this pawn is coming in. So if I had just bided my time. But no, I just rushed into it. Move the pawn forwards, he takes for free. I realize my mistake. I castle just to get out of the pin. He takes another pawn for free. I move my knight out of the way because I was like, I should probably tempo this bishop. And maybe if I can tempo this bishop and the bishop comes back to here, then he won't have a rook defending this pawn. That was my thinking. But he instead goes for this sneaky little plan. He attacks my rook here. So I move it to the other square. Apparently there's a whole line here where I take here, he takes here, and I take the bishop here and go really aggressive with my knights. But I didn't go for that. I just moved my rook out of the way. So he moves his other bishop in. And here, I can't stay on these squares because of the bishop. I can't stay on this square or this square because of pawns. I only really have one option. So that's where I went. Apparently that was wrong as well. And now he's really attacking me with both of these bishops. So I took, he took, I took, he took. And I knew I had this move. Apparently it was wrong to take the rook. Take, 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 take. And that was just one of the biggest trade fests ever. And I'm down 3 points because I'm just not able to spot this stuff like a 500 rated player can. He checks me. I move. He takes my pawn. I get my queen here and I'm thinking I really only have like a couple ideas. Maybe I can get my knight here and go for a checkmate on here, or maybe I can swing this bishop over and go for something, but I'm currently pinned right now. Maybe I can get my queen in here and go after this for a back ranker, or maybe take this pawn and eat a few pawns and climb my way back into the game. I was not feeling so good, but I start with this one just to attack this pawn. He moves his queen. I take the pawn. He moves here for a check, and here I moved my knight back because I felt like I should get my piece rerouted because I want my knight to attack one of these squares. But then he just takes another pawn. I have to move because it's check. He tries to do a queen swap, and I'm like, nope, we are not swapping queens. That would be awful, even though the engine says it's best. So I move my queen out of the way, still hoping I can get my knight here and go after this pawn maybe. But not so fortunate. A few more trades happen here. I tempo on his queen, but here he actually looked at me, and he's, you know, he's in like second grade. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, I'm very sorry." And he moved his queen here to check me. Double attack on my knight. A little Chinese second grader apologized to me for absolutely destroying me on the chessboard. I move my king, he takes my knight, and now I'm completely lost. He checks me a few more times, and it was at this point I just resigned, because this is a almost forced checkmate. I mean, he's just coming down here. What can I do? Do I run? No, because this is coming. I have to come here with my queen. He comes here. He just wins my queen with his rook, and then he's got a queen left over and he can just gobble up and promote. So I was like, there's no way I'm winning this. Absolutely disgusting. And you're all probably wondering, what rating level did he play at? Well, let's have a quick look. He played with a 78.1 and I played with a 69.9. So yeah, he wasn't as good as the 800, but he still played a very solid game, nearly 80% accuracy with white, and I didn't play so good. I should have taken advantage in the early game, just taking it a wee bit slower, watched out for the pin on my king, and I probably could have had a really solid game, and most likely won, but I let that opportunity go away, and he was able to use those two bishops very powerfully and then just outplay me. So that was game 2. And you're probably all sitting here thinking, how can we watch another one of Owen's tournament games? Well, game 3 is where I pop off against a first grader, a little Indian girl. I popped off so hard after making a brilliant move that she started crying. And I felt like the worst human on earth. But I had to get my first victory over the board. I just had to do anything. But I felt awful. Here's a quick video of me talking about how I feel after game 2. But stick around for that game 3.
I'm officially one of the worst over the board players. I just lost my second game to big Gavin. He was a tiny little boy who was like 500 rated. He said online his chess.com rating is like 800. I don't think I've ever played somebody that low rated. And I was in a completely winning position. I was going to be up a bishop. and just let it all go. So that's what happened.
All right, lads. So this is the game 3 where we got the white pieces, and you can already see the moves above my head. But let me just go through this game. We played d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, and here they played the knight to c6. So we already had ideas of going knight b5. They defend with the pawn, take with the bishop. Here, the knight jumps away, and we sack our queen because we can get the queen back. All these are going through my mind already. We go for this. They go for this. We take. And here, instead of taking my bishop, they played this interesting move, moving the bishop to d6, which is something I just never see. And it's good to know about this move in the future. I thought about this for a little while and mistakenly took the bishop with my bishop. But if I had taken with my knight, then they recapture, and here I can just take f6, and they're probably going to take with the queen, and I'm up 1 point. I just go here, defend this pawn, and I can develop very easily. They have 2 isolated pawns in the middle, so a very easy position to play as white. None of that happened because I took with the bishop, and here I just played e3. She castled. I played the bishop to d3 because I thought this is a good developing move. We're going to attack on this side. She played her bishop to g4, and almost immediately I thought, okay, we're going to do a little pawn storm. So I started pawn storming, and here I took her bishop. Now, in retrospect, that was not the best move because she could recapture here, but instead she recaptured with the h-pawn, and this gave me a lot of hope. I was thinking, okay, this looks very nice. We're going to attack down here at some point. So I played my queen up and thought I'll castle queenside. She moved her queen over. I took the free pawn. It looked very free, although I missed a fork. Stupid Owen. She attacked, so I just moved straight back. She's trying to reroute her knight. I wasn't quite sure what she's doing here, but I know that she probably saw that she had a discovered attack and thought I might miss it. She was young. She was in 1st grade. So maybe that was her thought. So I just retreated and decided to go after this pawn. She put her knight back on here, and when she did this, I was thinking, I've really got an advantage here. She's moved so many pieces over and over again, and she's not developing her pieces. She's not getting her pieces on great squares. So I castle here. She moves her knight in. I kick the knight away. I was defending, but I thought maybe if she brings another piece over to try to eliminate something here, she could start doing some tricks. But she withdrew again. This is like the 4th time she's been knight to c6. And now I start my attack down the king side. She tries to maneuver her knight here so that she can maybe come here and fork my king and queen. I'm not quite sure what's happening yet. I played my knight g to e2 because I was thinking I can get my knight over here and have some attack. It's a good way to develop the piece. She brought her queen over. I moved up to f4. And here I was like, okay, this attack of hers is just going very slow. But I can see she's trying to go here with the knight and checkmate me on b2. So I just played the pawn up. I don't know if there was an easier way to stop that. It says I could have taken a free pawn here, but I didn't want to just like make things complicated. I was like, I'll just defend with the pawn, defend very simply. She moved her queen over again, and here I just defended the pawn. The queen was attacking on a3. She pushes b6 here, and I was really confused about this for a few minutes, and then I was thinking, okay, it's just a bad move. You know, if I was going to move this pawn, I probably would have played it to b5, you know, because if I take, then the rook has an open file. But I don't know. That's what she did. I just decided to keep pushing my pawns. She took. I took with knight. She moved her queen to b8. And it was at this point I was like, okay, I've definitely won this game. I didn't see this tactic. I moved my queen in because I was going to prepare to do this tactic. She defended with her knight. And here I found a move that was pretty brilliant. And when I played this, I saw her eyes get really big. she just sort of like looked, and she looked up at me, and I could see she started to tear up. So I kind of looked at her and sort of kept focused on the game. And she took quite a while to make a move here. But then she played knight takes. And I assumed that's what she was going to do. But I had this idea of pushing the pawn here. The reason I originally went here is because it gets my knight off of the h-file. The h-file is now open. And now when I push the pawn, she can't go back here because this is checkmate. So I push the pawn in. She pushes her pawn to defend. And now I get my knight back with a pawn placed on f6. So it's going to be very easy to mate here. She pushes a pawn. I just want to double my rooks. So I sling my rook up to h6. She pushes again. I'm not really too concerned. I swing over to h1, knowing that I am going to checkmate on h8 in one move. She took here. So then I took with the queen. She moved in here because she knew she just had to keep checking. I took with the queen because on the next move I'm going to be mating. And I did checkmate her on h8, and she was really upset about this. And I looked over at her and I said, "You're a lot better at chess than I was when I was your age." And she didn't really seem to be comforted by those words. She just seemed upset. So this was game 3. I didn't record a video after this one because I just felt really bad. If you want to see how we played, I played a 78.2, nearly an 80%, and she played a 63.6. A pretty typical game. Let me jump in to game 4 and show you what happened against the last little girl that I played. So I was feeling pretty good for game 4. We got the white pieces for the second time. This is our 4th game. And I decided I'm going to play the Jabava again. But this little girl was not in 1st grade. She was in like 3rd or 4th grade. And right before the game started, she was looking at the neighboring board where 2 boys were playing. And she made a few comments like, "You can't move there. It's check and queen f3 and h2. And I was like looking over the board trying to like do all those calculations in my head. And I was thinking to myself, this girl's kind of like Hermione Granger, sort of just telling everyone what's going on. So she's going to be pretty decent. But I am like 3 times her size. So I was feeling okay. And I had the white pieces. So we'll see what happens. I played d4, d5, knight c3. And instead of going knight f6, she brought the bishop out. So here I bring my bishop out. And you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start pawn storming. Just how we do in the Jabava. Swap the bishops off. And I'm feeling pretty good here. She plays the move c5, which is a move I very much hate. I castle. And she pushes. I pull back. I've seen this move before. I've played this exact position before in one of my online games. She brings her knight out to c6. I push forwards. And here I was feeling pretty good. I've played almost all the best moves so far in the position. She makes a mistake. Bishop to e7. I bring my knight to h3. Another best move. I'm playing fantastic. Queen up. And here is my first little mistake. So here you might be wondering, why did you move your queen up? Well, it actually involved a few reasons. I wanted to play this pawn forwards, but I was worried about take, and then rook takes my knight. Now, rook can't take my knight, but if I wanted to put my rook on e1, then the rook could take my knight, and I wouldn't be able to play this move. So I thought, if I want to have a rook on e1, which is what I wanted, because I saw I can take here, and if he takes, we can bring our queen in potentially. There's some sort of ideas of opening up the e-file. Then I want to have a rook here. But if my rook's here, then they win this pawn. So I thought I'll move my queen here to defend this pawn. So the pawn can't be taken, and my rook and my queen can both be on this file, and this rook can also defend the knight. So I was planning rook e1, and then I was going to move this pawn in, take, this knight's going to have to jump away to one of these squares, and then we can bust into the open. Take on here. He can't take with queen because my knight takes, so he has to take with pawn. And now he's got a queen here and a bishop here. No pawn here, but a pawn and a pawn here. But I would have a rook and a queen shooting down this e-file. So that was all my thinking. A bit complex, too much. I spent forever on this move, probably like 8 minutes or something. I thought about it for a long time because I was learning to use my time, and then I just played the absolute biggest mistake. So it is what it is, but that's just so you know what I was thinking. She brings her other rook over, and I decide I'm gonna just close everything down, and I ultimately went with the wrong one. She retreated her knight, and now I play this pawn forwards. Now, the reason this position got so ugly and so bad all of a sudden was because she didn't take my pawns. She just pushed her pawns. And right here, I moved my rook over because I was thinking I'll push here and threaten this, and she's going to have to take, and I can take back with the rook. But again, she just pushed her pawn. And these two simple pawn pushes shut down everything on the king side of the board. I can't advance anywhere here. Like, there's no way in. I can't get my knight here because it doesn't even hit anything because this pawn is defending everything. I can't like move my bishop and get my rook over because there's pawns holding both of these squares. So it was just impossible for me to make any progress. And even though I had a winning position, now I'm just having to play on the queen side. So I move my bishop. She starts pawn storming me. I move my knight because I think maybe I can reroute it. She moves her knight in. And here, I just gave her a free pawn. I should have moved here and defended the pawn on a2. She takes a free pawn. I move my king. She moves back. I move my king. She takes another free pawn because I'm an idiot. I've given her 2 free pawns. And now the game is just playing 2 pawns down for the entire time. She really attacks very well here. And here I have 2 pieces defending this pawn on d4. But I only have 1 piece defending here. So I'm like, I have to defend twice. So now I have 2 pieces defending here. But here she just swaps off. And now you can see I only have 1 defender of this pawn because she removed the defender of this pawn. So she comes in with a check. I have to run. She takes here. I have to run. She takes here. I have to run. She takes here. I have to defend. And now, I mean, I'm just completely lost. She's up 9 points. I was hoping I could just do some sort of check here. If she goes over, maybe a check here. Maybe she comes up here and I can maybe come in here and try to do something. But honestly, not really. She just stopped all that with a pawn to b4. So now I'm just grasping at straws. I have to move my queen here or here because this is attacked twice. She moves her rook over. I move my rook over. And here I was like, okay, it's completely over. All she has to do is go c1. I take. And she takes, and that's checkmate. But she found another way to do it. She just blocked my queen. So I had to take. She took. I took. And there was the checkmate on c1. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. Got absolutely destroyed by another little girl. And I left the tournament feeling terrible. If you want to see, just look above me. I played with a 74.1 and she played with an 87.5. Here's a video talking about my experience at this tournament right after this game in the hot Arizonan sun. I am in my hot Arizona car. This whole state is way too hot. I ended the day 1 win and 3 losses. And I'm a bit embarrassed with how badly I played, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I thought
I should have done a lot better than I did. I only played against some kids, and they were all a lot better than their rating. The last girl that I played, she was 1,000 rated, and she said her online was an 1100. And if I ever played against an 1100 online and lost, I would be mortified. But when I play over the board, I think it's just a different game, and I have to understand that, and I'm not good at it. So it's something I'm going to work on, and we'll get them next time.
Thanks, lads, for watching a really long video on chess. That was 40 minutes of me just talking about some games I played. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was a blast. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed hearing about an in-life tournament. And I am going to be playing some more soon. So stay tuned. In the next few weeks, I will be doing another one. And hopefully my rating will go up. It looks like I did get a rating on the US Chess Federation, and my rating is like 491 or 535. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but both of those ratings suck. So the next tournament, I'm hoping I can raise the roof and just climb like crazy. So thanks for watching, lads. And I'll see you guys next week with some more videos on my channel. And the next time I go to a tournament, I'm going to really focus and try to just dominate my games. So I'll see you guys again soon.